Okay, this is talking my walking. Uh, I am Rodrigo Ribeiro, and today I'm going to talk about narratives. You know, that's what runs, that's what is behind whatever we believe it's true or false, misinformation, scientific, science, whatever. That's how we work as human beings. So, among the so many among the diversity of narratives that we are exposed to, that exist in this world, that are spread by mainstream media or legacy media, if you prefer, and also by social media, and alternative media, indie media, narratives. All sort of narratives are present these days everywhere. So there is the official narrative that actually it's still is still has a huge influence because it has the means to be more ubiquitous. So it has the means behind the official narrative. There are the economic, financial, and technological means and political means to spread it. That's why it's still dominant and very influential. But besides that, not like before in history, which before the before it was a very stable. Narratives were much more consistent, because consistent in the terms they didn't change too much. But since especially with the internet, now we have such a diversity of narratives that most of us, I think most of the time we are confused. I mean, we are not confused because all of us believe that we are somehow right, because we believe we can resist being deceived. But unfortunately, that's not the case. That's exactly the opposite. We are very easily deceived. So, among all narratives that in the political and ideological terms go from one side of the spectrum to the other, it doesn't matter. Some will be more accurate than others. Some will be more factual based than others. So they are not, all the narratives are not that they might we should not take any narrative for its face value. We should always be open to the new not new narratives, but different narratives. It doesn't need to be new. Always this idea that looking for novelty, and because somehow it is more valuable than the old, which is not true in many cases, but it can have value as well. That's why narratives are so it is very difficult to navigate these muddy waters. They are really muddy. It's not. It requires it requires that we have to be trained ourselves, because if we don't have an educational system And the cultural system, if we live in an environment that doesn't really train us to be critical thinkers, we are not trained to be critical thinkers. We are not trained to analyze the problems and to break down the narratives with a system thinking, complex. To in an analytical way that is systemic and understands how complex systems work, how complex systems interact with each other and affect how we perceive the world. So this is it can never be, it's never a linear, there are things, of course, there are things that they can be understood in a very linear way, but in most cases we need to have a complex system approach. This has nothing to do with complex system modeling. You don't need to model anything. You just need to think systemically, to be to connect the dots. Otherwise, we always depend on experts to tell you what to think, how to understand reality. Not because it's not valuable, but sometimes it's overvalued. And sometimes they produce rubbish. Honestly, there is so much rubbish that is produced by experts in so many fields across all academia. I mean, because it's some intentional, okay? Some is intentionally to have. Because nobody is totally independent, okay? Everybody is biased. Everybody needs to put food on the table, and so never underestimate that the need to fit in the system in order to survive. So most narratives are incomplete, have mistakes, of course, errors, and they are biased. They have always a fictional part on it, a part that is based on myths or dogmas, or that is the nature of narratives. So because narratives is they are the way that we understand reality. But as I always say it, I repeat it again because in my opinion it's very important. We are logical thinkers, no, not rational thinkers, which means that for many people rationality and logic might be the same, but it is not the same, because logic brings you, it's our ability to understand that something, you start in one point and you end up in another point. And rationality should be about verifying if that logic, rationality to me is about using discernment. It's about that things might look logic, but they might be mistaken. They might be fake, because if they start from false axioms, wrong axioms, it's very difficult. The result, it will be wrong, and nevertheless it is logic. So that's why I always point out this which is, in my opinion, a very important point. Otherwise we easily fall for logical narratives, logical explanations and justifications, but they are not right. They can be morally wrong, they can be intellectually fake, falsified, intentionally or not. Because that is also the point. Not every narrative is falsified intentionally, but there are many, but they are usually biased, and many are falsified intentionally because the point is to manipulate us. The point is to make us believe, make the wider public believe in certain ideas or ideologies, political, economic, cultural, or religious, or others, in order to manufacture consent. And if we believe that without doing our research, without deconstruct, without looking it in a critical thinking manner, if we don't train that ability, that we become ourselves experts in critical thinking and complex systems analysis, we easily fall victims of stupid narratives, of narratives that do not make sense whatsoever, and nevertheless they guide our lives. They guide our political choices. They guide our consumer choices. They guide our understanding of the world, and they transform us into accomplices or so many things that are wrong in this world. While we believe being right, we all believe we are right. That's why we need to confront our ideas with others, and that's why we should never just follow one single narrative. It is too simplistic to believe that we can understand the world through a single narrative, through a single ideology. We need holistic thinking. We need holistic integration, and we need to understand that even from the ideologies that are on the antipodes of ours, we always can learn from it. So we cannot understand everything that is available, because it is humanly impossible. But we need to do our best. I mean, because I believe narratives is about creating followers, okay? Narratives is about creating followers. It's about building an identity. It's about making us feel good with a certain specific group of, we feel more comfortable. So we just make the option to become more close to these ideas and these groups and these communicators or whoever it is, political parties or whatever it is, we just become more sympathizers or defenders of, because based on what we feel, it's not because believing, it's also about feeling. And this is an important concept. What makes us feel in a certain way might make us closer or repelling, that we can repel or feel identification. And again, that is nothing to do with truth. What is true or false? This has nothing to do, these choices should be based on facts. But how we feel about it makes us easily feel comfortable with lies. And this is very complicated in one sense. It's pretty simple, but at the same time can be complicated, because it requires training, life training. This is not just about that we do it. It's like if you want to become good in anything, you have to train it, and we also have to train. Critical thinking is not something that we are born with. Forget about it. Again, we are born with the ability to understand logical thinking and to understand that things can, but we are easily led to mistaken logic with reason. And that's why we so easily believe all sorts of BS based in, and nevertheless they are logical. Because the narrative is built in a way, is framed in a way that it makes it look logic, sound logical, and feel logical. Again, never forget the word feeling. How do you feel? How do you link? How does your feels link to it? And make you eventually bonding you to certain ideas and ideologies. That our ideological bonds are always emotional bonds. It's the same, because they make us feel in a certain way, So, and this is a very important. It is very important to understand what I'm trying to convey. So we need to be skeptical, not just because we should doubt everything, but because we need to be open. To me, skepticism, it's not only about doubting, it's not only about questioning, it's also about being open. And because I know many, I know people that are skeptic, even, people like, I don't remember the name of the guy. Let me see. The guy is the director or the editor, or producer, I'm not sure about that, of the magazine called Skeptic. Its face is really present, but his name is not, because it's not a guy that he's not a guy that I every day, but I know his name, and I know where he comes from ideologically, and I can see when I listen to this guy. Sometimes he has a podcast. I don't remember the name of the podcast. is a very smart person. But nevertheless, it is obvious. His bias is obvious, and nevertheless he believes no. Skepticism is also about being open. That's what I'm trying to say. Skepticism is not only about untrust and question everything, it's also about being open. Otherwise, our biases will always bring us, just to suck us into. We are sucked into our biases if we do not try to be open. And of course, it's impossible to override our bias totally. But if we keep open, or if we train, and I have to emphasize this, everything about human beings is trainable. Okay? We are domesticated animals. We need to understand ourselves as domesticated animals, self-domesticated animals, which means that we not really self-domesticated, but since we are a cultural species and we cannot understand anything but through culture, through narratives, we are by definition domesticated species. At least in my opinion. So we are sucked into our biases if we, besides being skeptic, do not really train openness. Even when I think about my own reasoning process, I know that I am biased. I am aware of that, and that's why I'm always open. And I try to through the rational scrutiny, through discernment, to use mechanisms to allow me, to make me less susceptible to fall into logical fallacies, to see me trying to justify instead of explaining, or to try to when I try hard. But the point is, what I'm trying to say is that we need to train it, like anything else that we want to be skillful. It doesn't mean that it's not because we are. And again, there is an important point. People with higher education, they are not smarter than the rest of us. They are not even better critical thinkers. Sometimes it is the case that they are indoctrinated to the point that they don't see anything else, but and they are full of themselves, which is another important point. They just are so used to be in a closet, to be in a to think only most scholars do not train holistic reasoning. Okay, they are not trained to think systemically. They are trained, or they train themselves to think to be focused in a single topic, and then they know a lot about that topic, but they know very little about the connections. And because they want to build a career, they just try to do their best, not to search the truth, but to have to become, to create an identity, to create, to produce something that makes them sound. I'm missing the word that anybody else has produced yet. So they want to become in the market of ideas, because all of this is about market. You know, it's about ideas. It's about ideas, not about truth. So that's one of my important points. You know, ideas have consequences, and ideas can be true or false. They can be instrumentalized. They can be or they can be instrumentalized to manipulate us. So it is about truth. It is about not, you know, I find it amazing that we do not care enough about truth. That's why it's important, the narratives, and it doesn't matter. I mean, it matters then that we should, when we expose ourselves to, it doesn't matter what kind of narrative, we should above all be interested in getting closer to the truth of the matter. Never it is about absolute truths, okay? It's about the truth connected to the real life. The truth that is connected to real facts. Otherwise, we never understand the real world. We cannot understand society. We can function, we can train ourselves to adapt to the society, we can even be successful and whatsoever, but we go through all our lives without understanding how society really works. What is behind, you know, the mechanisms behind the stage, you know, the backstage. So this is no one owns the truth. No narrative is the true narrative. You know, that's you can see it in the religious narratives. They all claim they are the truth. They are the true ones, but none of them is. Because it's not about the absolute truth. It's about values. It should be about the values and the principles. And to understand life, and to understand human condition, and to understand society and how society is organized the way it is. This is the point. Not about absolute truth. Not about having claims on owning the truth. And this is a very important point. The tragedy of all of this is that we can become or be transformed into slaves of narratives, cultural, ideological narratives. And the ones that are able to influence us, to deceive us into those traps, they will create societal systems, physical systems that will that will transform us into physical slaves, because of course the elites, they want they want to enslave and colonize our minds, but the purpose of it is to transform us into physical slaves, into functional peons that to work on behalf of we work to build a world that actually it is not ours. I mean, we are participating in a societal system which we are not. We don't. I mean, we do not. We have nothing to do with this design. We just have to obey and follow and comply. Because we have been taught and trained to be voluntary, for voluntary submission. And we can only, through breaking down, to just deconstruct the narratives, that's the only way, through critical thinking, to understand that we can have from many different narratives, even opposite narratives, we can understand that we are being deceived. Because this is how the real world works. And that's why the talk about freedom, and free markets, and so much. It's just to make us believe in an illusion that actually has nothing to do with our real life. We don't have freedom if we need to be overworked in order to make ends meet. How can you believe that you are free? How can you believe that you are free if you have to work to bear a bullshit job that doesn't give you any, that only allows you to survive, and nevertheless you have to spend every day, 5 days a week, 5 or 6 days a week, performing those tasks that are destroying, that are making you, transforming you into an alienated being. And then, this is nothing to do with freedom. This has nothing to do, and this is to do with enslavement. Because that's not how we should live our lives. But that's the power of narratives. And it's not because we swim in a sea of information that, again, that is proven. This is scientifically proved that the more choices we have, in the end we make bad choices. We make bad decisions. Why? Because we get overwhelmed by that we don't know anymore, because it's very difficult for us if we have more choices. Then we can actually really scrutinize in a rational way. So more information is not actually good, and especially is not good because most of the information is poisoned, is tainted with lies, is misinformation, is infotainment, is tailored to manipulate perception. And that's where we live. This is nothing to do with freedom. This is nothing to do with choice. Because it's the same if, it's like choosing between Coca-Cola and Pepsi. There's nothing to do with choice. Of course, you have that choice. Okay, I might say, I like this one better. I like Burger King better than McDonald's. Oh, this or that. Okay, that is... These choices are not about making you more free. This doesn't matter, because what the market wants is that you are craving this stuff, that you are addicted to this stuff. Not free. Free is when you can develop and train yourself to say no. To be more empowered psychologically, emotionally, to be more confident, to be more authentic, to be a critical thinker, to understand your weaknesses, because we all have weaknesses. So when you look up to people that are figures of authority, of knowledge, of power, of whatever, you look at them and think they are full of weaknesses. Do not look at them as if they know the truth, as if they have something special than yourself. Never. We do not need to follow anybody. We are companions in a journey. We are pieces of each other. That's why we can learn from doesn't matter what kind of narratives, even if the narratives are tainted, are full of mistakes, that are always, you can learn something. But that's exactly the point, that if we train our discernment in order to, it's like the same thing, you go into a forest. Just imagine a forest as a narrative, with full of, there is different trees, there is different relations, there is this and that. And you go there, and what do you want to know? What is the main, and you need to look for food there. What do you need to eat? You need to separate, you need to discern, to become aware which are the fruits that you can eat, that are not poisonous, that enhance your health, and make you, and keep you alive, and the ones that are poisonous. It is the same about narratives. A narrative can be like a forest, where you can find pearls, really amazing fruits, and you can also find poisonous ones. So if you instead of believing that every single fruit you find is eatable, or in this case represents the truth, you end up dying, or you end up enslaved. So this is I mean, maybe people don't want to care about this kind of stuff, but I think it's important. It's important because I mean, I think life is needs to be more respected, and life has really dignity. There is dignity in life, and that dignity is not about being deceived or being instrumentalized and being used and abused and discarded, but about having real opportunities to build meaningful lives, to be creative in a responsible manner, and create societies, functional societies, and not transform us into predators of everything, just because the purpose of life becomes to accumulate wealth and pursue profit, and then the worst people among us are going to be the ones, not because, because being smart is meaningless. Okay, it's not about being smart. Many people is smart, but ones that become filthy rich, usually they have to be sociopaths or psychopaths. People that do not have scruples. That they put their goals, they do not care what kind of means do they need to use in order to achieve their goals. And when these people have in their minds megalomaniac projects, we are doomed. We are the ones, and this is not what life is about. We are not here to receive commands. It doesn't matter if there are intermediaries between God and that's another thing that people should be really. That's very powerful when some people just can make you believe that they are intermediaries between God and you, so the Creator and you, and you have to follow them. You have to give them your money. You have to give them your mind or soul, if you want to believe that you have a soul. In exchange for what? For enslavement, not freedom, not eternal life. Doesn't matter if eternal life exists or not. You don't need them. If it's embedded, if eternal life really exists, it will not go away because you stop believing in the intermediaries, the ones that want to be between you and the eternal life, your right to eternal life. So this is so every time you look around you go out, you live in a town, for example, you have the advertisements, you have so many signs and symbols, everywhere. There's symbolic language everywhere, there is signs everywhere. So everything is everything makes sense through narratives. Okay, even the signs that it's not only by language, written language or oral language. There is all types of narratives, and those narratives, all of them, are transmitting ideas, values, and principles. Okay, everywhere you look, there is things telling you a story, transmitting, conveying an idea, a set of values and principles. And we think and behave under the influence, okay? Our identity, we think and behave under the influence of those narratives that are there. They just exist there. You don't need to read them. You don't need to, it's not about only reading papers or essays or novels or reports or listen to podcasts or whatever. It's everywhere. Narratives are everywhere. Ideas and values and principles, they are everywhere. And because that's how we work. So we need to understand them we need to understand their relevance in how we build our identity. And our identity, our identity, cultural identity and ideological identity, how we perceive ourselves, has nothing to do with truth. I mean, it's not our identity is true because it's our identity. It's how we perceive us, and how we perceive our relation with the world. But our identity in itself, it can be based on a lot of fake values and fake ideas about the reality itself. And this is a very important point, because we can function in a society in spite of not understanding that society at all, because that we have ideas about, doesn't matter what, race, gender, politics, God, whatever. They might be all fake, they might be all totally, not having senseless, but nevertheless, we become what those ideas make. Those ideas transform us and make us believe and make us to be and we become, our identity can be based only in lies all our life. And we can live and function and even be successful, of course. It has happened in the past because our interpretation, the role our imagination plays in the way we interpret the world and the natural phenomena, is has nothing to do with the laws of nature, with the laws of physics, as we all know. This is just our imagination, our creative capabilities, intellectual and cognitive capabilities are coming to make it sound logical. Again, we go back to the logical principle. What matters is that we create a narrative that is logical, that makes sense to us, and we will become our identity, our cultural identity as a group or as individuals, become based on those narratives that actually are baseless, are inauthentic. They do not have any factual basis. And this is the same about how economics work, about politics work, because we can live all our lives mistaken about the ideas, the main ideas, the dominant ideas about politics and economics and finance and monetary systems and whatever, all the things that are important in our lives, because that's the ones that make us have better lives or worse lives, or be more exploited or less exploited. So they are very important since childhood, since from cradle to grave. And nevertheless, we can believe and function, behave and adapt to a system that is dysfunctional, that is rigged on the benefit of a few, and we just live all our lives because we buy into the narratives that defend it, that make it sound logical. So this is how narratives work for us, and I'm going to stop it here for today. Thank you for listening, and I'll be back soon. Thank you.